All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the animation recreation call or recording if you want. I'm very, very sorry I am not able to make it for the animation recreation call. Instead, I'm going to supply you guys with an animation recreation recording. So you are still going to end up with an amazing animation recreated in After Effects. Okay, you're going to be learning a whole bunch of stuff today, like very cool dynamic backgrounds, very good motion graphics. You're going to be learning how to make really good UI. There's so much over here to learn. Okay. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive straight into it and start making a very cool animation. So if you guys haven't yet previewed the animation, if you're seeing this as a community post, you can probably check it out in the other video. And if you're seeing this as a part of a course, you can probably check out the link down below to actually preview the animation itself. So make sure you preview the animation and spend some time dissecting it, understanding why certain things work that way and what exactly happened and how we ended up where we are. And once you finally understand how things are working, then we can actually start recreating it, because the first step is actually understanding how it's made, and then we can start recreating it. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive right in. So I'm in After Effects right now. We're going to just create a new composition, set the width to 1920 and the height to 1080, as we always do. And the theme color I'm going with for this one is going to be a yellow. So let's go ahead and get started on creating the background. We'll right click and add a new solid. And as usual, you guys already know this, I love the 4-color gradient effect. If you haven't used this effect, all you gotta do is jump forward, you're gonna get 4-color gradient. It just creates 4 different colors on a gradient. It's super awesome, okay? So with this being said, we're going with a yellow theme. So I do want to go with like yellow and gray colors, or orange and gray colors. That's kind of the idea I want to go with here. So let's get started on creating a cool background. We're gonna just leave color 1 for now. We're gonna change color 2 to like this dark gray, and color 3 to a darker gray, and color 4 to the same gray but even darker. Okay, I'm just gonna get this kind of random like variation, and then color 1, we're just gonna like make it this like black for now, and we're just going to add a small hint of orange, just like this. Okay. Now what this is going to do is it's going to just add a little hint of orange in the background, which is just going to allow it to pop a little more and just show the viewer that this background is kind of yellow influenced. Okay, and also for the dark black color over here, we're basically just going to go with a dark orange instead, because it's the exact same. It just has a hint of like yellow or orange, and it just makes it look a lot better. Just like this. Okay. Maybe a bit lighter. Too light, and it just looks like brown now. So let's see, maybe this. Nope. Maybe if we go here and then just go with a grayish one. There we go. Just looks a lot better. Awesome. And I'm just gonna blend them in at like 200 just to give them a bit more blend. Let's darken these two a bit more, and we are good to go. Awesome. That looks like a very, very high quality background. So now let's get to work on the overlay on top of our background. What I want to do is I want to create a dot map, and I just want to add a Venetian blinds effect to it to create the dots. And I also want to add the turbulent displace just to make it look a lot better like a wave. I've shown you guys how to do this before. So let's just go ahead and add a solid. We're going to leave it at black for now. And we're going to click on the search bar, search up Venetian blinds. We're just going to add the Venetian blind effect to the solid. And we're going to set the transition completion to 85. And then all we got to do is set the width to like 5. Just a lot better. No, 5 is too different. Sorry, 10. And when you zoom in, you can actually see it. And then we're just going to duplicate it and then set the direction to 90. And we're going to get a bunch of dots. Now this kind of messed it up because we set the width to 10. So let's leave it at 20 for now. That just looks a lot better. And no feather, good transition completion. Let's duplicate it now and set this to 90. And we're going to get these dots, which actually looks pretty good. So we just want to whip up a quick background. We don't want to worry too much about this. So we're going to select this thing, and we're going to add a gradient ramp to it. And when we add a gradient ramp, we're going to set, obviously the bottom's going to be white, the top's going to be black. We're going to set this to gradient ramp and set the start to the center, which makes it this kind of cool ramp color. And this background isn't too important, so don't worry too much about it. And we're just going to set the start color to a, perhaps maybe a light, yellowish color like this, and we just want the end color to be black. That's basically all that there is here. Maybe we want to go with something like this. Okay, now let's quickly just double check if our composition settings are correct. Are our composition settings correct? Because this thing is interesting. Yes, everything is correct. Let's just make sure it's at full resolution. At full resolution, we can see the full thing. Okay, looks great. And that's how we end up with this very cool background. We can make a lot more like cool things with this. We don't have to use these colors. We could use a light orange like this over here, which I think just looks a lot better. And then for the end, we could just go with a gray, right? blended it even more, like a dark gray like this instead of a black, right? It just blends in a lot more. Now I think for this we're probably just going to end up using a dark orange like that. It just looks a lot better. And the top color might just be like a slightly darker orange. Or a darker yellow. Like that. I think that just looks a lot better. And yeah, then we could actually like change, you know, the blending mode to whatever we want. If we want to use this as add, if we want to do this as overlay, if we want to do it whatever we want, we're just going to leave it as normal for now. Now we're just going to add the turbulent displacement effect to just make it look a lot better. So we're going to add the turbulent displace on this top thing, and we're just going to increase the amount. Sorry, not increase the amount, increase the size. Let's do 175. Bring the offset over to here, and let's keyframe the offset and click on you so you can see your keyframes. And we're just going to move to the end and move the offset all the way up to here. Let's check out this animation. Looks perfect. Okay, great. Now we're just going to go ahead and scale it in just so I don't have to deal with this kind of warped stuff in the bottom. There is a fix for this, but I don't want to do the complex way, so let's just go ahead and scale it in. 150 is too much, let's do 120, but 20 seems pretty solid. And the final thing is I'm going to bring its transparency down by 50%. Okay. Awesome, we now have a very smooth and simple background. That, ladies and gentlemen, is how you make a quick background in 6 minutes. Let's get to work on the rest of our animation. So the first scene we want is we're going to be having, I've got this all planned out on a Figma board. There's no need for me to show it to you guys, but I'm going to still show it to you guys just so you can see like what I have in mind. The first scene is going to be just to zoom in on the background. We're going to have a pop-up of this like square UI. Once the square UI pops up, we're not going to have any like 3D camera over it, so we can do all this in 2D. We're going to have the square UI pop in, kind of like extend from the center and just have some text in the middle like Ultimate Editors. And we're just going to make a very, very cool rectangle UI. Okay, it's going to be very, very high quality. You guys are going to like this. Second thing we're going to do is we're going to have a cursor come in, and then it's going to click on it. And when it clicks on it, we're going to have all these like weird circles start coming out. These circles are going to fill in our shape layer, and it's just going to make it look a lot better. And then we're going to get to a point where these circles are finally going to fill in the shape layer and change its color. And then it's going to transition from a darker shape layer to a lighter one. And it's going to have some text on it and an icon. And once we do this, we're also going to have it duplicate a few times and just kind of spread out. And finally, we're going to have pop-up buttons at the bottom. We're going to click on one of the buttons, and these are going to go to the side, and then we're just going to have like Ultimate Editors logo or like a Bitcoin logo or something that's influenced by the color yellow over here with some text and an action button. Okay? So with this being said, let's go ahead and dive right in. Let's get started on the UI animation. So the first thing we got to do is we got to have a rectangle pop in over here. So let's add a shape layer and get started on this. First thing I do is select my rectangle. Let's just go ahead and draw out a fair rectangle, something like this. Yeah, something like this looks pretty solid. And then we can just go down to, let's go down around this and just bump up around this just a bit. We don't want this to be too loud. Okay. Something like 35 looks to be perfect. Awesome. Let's go ahead and add the coloration to it. For the coloration, I'm thinking of adding a 4-color gradient as usual. Let's add a 4-color gradient, set these different points to the edges of the rectangle. Awesome. And then we're just going to go with point 1 being like a light yellow, like this, and then the rest of the points are going to be darker grays. Okay, so they're going to be really dark colors. Okay, so we're going to go with like the orange tint, and we're just going to go dark. So dark orange, we're going to make all of these dark orange as well, just so we can start working on this. We're going to make the second one a darker orange, and the third one a really dark. Dark, like a dark gray as well. And only the first color is going to be a lighter orange, but it's still barely going to like influence it. So we're going to go to orange, and we're just going to make this today like this. Like just slightly lighter, okay? And now I realize that I need to make all these different colors also darker, so I do need to make this one like less orange, because it just has way too much influence. And this one as well, way less orange. Yeah, something like this is just going to look a lot better. Yeah, look at this, that just looks a lot better. So with the points, we have a bit of like weird kind of, I don't know, distortion. So I'm going to add point 1 up here, which is just going to make it look a bit better. And then we're going to just move point 2 to the bottom left over here, so it has more influence like that. Point 3 is going to be over here. Or actually, point 3 is supposed to be in the bottom left, and point 2 is supposed to be in the top right, like that. Okay, that's just going to look a lot better. And then just point 4, let's just make sure it's like over looks a lot better. The only issue is that point 3, I believe, is too light. That's okay. And point 2 is definitely too light. So we're going to button this one down. Looks amazing. Okay, now we've got a button that's influenced by the color range. We can space this out a bit more to make this look a little better. And there we go. Awesome. All right, let's go ahead and add a few more effects to make this thing look a lot better. So to make a button just look so much more interesting, there's two things I always like to add. Besides the drop shadow, we've got inner glow and we have the light sweep effect, okay? These two, if you add them, you can get super good results. So let's go ahead and do this. So we're gonna right click our shape layer, and we're gonna click on layer styles and click on inner glow. Let's get started with the inner glow. Let's go down to the inner glow, bump up the opacity so we can see it. You're gonna start seeing it on the edges. And the first thing we're going to do is change the color to a, like, just a white, so we can see things. And now let's play around with things. We're going to bump up the size, and when I bump up the size, you're going to notice it is way too strong. And that's where I increase the range all the way. And the reason I do this is just so we can lighten it, and then we decrease the opacity until it's something that is super light, like so. Okay, you can see that makes it look so much better. And now let's go ahead and give this thing a color. So since we're going with yellow, let's just start with going with like an orange color. And we could try like a lighter orange like this, which just looks very awesome. If we drop this down to like 10%, I think that could add a lot to a button. Or we could go with a darker orange. Let's set the blending mode first of all to normal. And we could go with like a darker orange like this to just kind of, you know, merge the whole thing together. Like that. We could totally go with the darker orange. Let me show you guys what I mean. Go with orange. Like you could go with this kind of orange. Is the blending mode better? Yeah. Go with this kind of orange to set this out a bit more. So you guys can see it looks very interesting. So I'm going to increase the size a bit more. And then let's just go with a orange like this, which looks pretty good. And we're going to go at 15%. I think looks pretty solid. Yeah, I think this looks very good as a button. You guys can, you know, it's up to you if you want to change this, if you want to make it look however you want. It's totally up to you. Now the next thing I'm also going to do is duplicate the shape layer, and you guys already know this. And we're going to delete our color gradient. And we're also going to delete our inner glow. And on our top shape layer, we're going to change the rectangle fill to a dark black, like this. And we're going to just add a light sweep. And we're going to make this effect super light. You guys are going to learn this very, very cool effect. We're going to add the light sweep to the center. And we're going to increase the width all the way, like so. And we're going to drop the sweep intensity all the way down. Okay, we're going to get just this small edge over here on the side. And put this at the top left for now, because that's where the bright orange was. So I'm just going to leave the center here and also just put the top left corner like that. And just kind of decrease the, where is it, the width. Until we get a better look like that. That just looks awesome. And then we're just going to give it a color like a, maybe a bright orange. Like this would look pretty interesting. Then we're just going to set the mode to add, and you guys can see it just adds an edge, and you can literally leave it like this. This already looks amazing as a button. This just looks super, super nice, right? One more thing we gotta do is just decrease the edge thickness until we get a very light edge like that, and this just looks awesome. We can also add a deep glow to it, which I think takes this effect to the next level. And look at that kind of button, that just looks amazing. So we're gonna tone this down a bit to 0.5, and there we go. We have a high quality button. So this is already a great start. We have a very high quality button. Next thing, just parent this thing to the shape layer, so that now whenever we move this shape layer, this thing just also moves with it, just to make sure that it is also the exact same. All right. Now let's get to work on our text. So we're going to add in a text layer. We're going to make sure we're using Nexa, and we're going to make sure we're using the heavy font. Double click on our text, and we're just going to write out alternate editors, because this is, you know what, we're going to make this thing crypto related, because I'm slightly getting sick of creating alternate editors animations. So let's go ahead and make this crypto related. So let's just write out something like Bitcoin, right, or Binance. Let's just type out something like this. We don't have to. Let's just do it, because why not? I have no association with Binance, but why not? Let's just go for it. And now we're just going to center the anchor point, as you guys saw me do right now, and we're just going to position this thing in the middle of the button. You could use your alignment and properties. So if you go down here, first of all, make sure it's in the center, and then center the anchor point. It's just a lot better. And then we could just, where's the alignment stuff? Let's see. Can't find alignment. No problem. We could just do this physically. Put it at the center of the button and the center horizontally. And then let's just kind of zoom out. Looks pretty good. For the text, I'm just going to go with something simple. Since it's a darker background, we're going to go with a gray text. It's really that simple, honestly. You could take this to the next level by adding gradient ramp and stuff, but there's really just no need. We don't have to overcomplicate it. So let's just select text, go to fill, and then just kind of let's see How does this look? Too gray, definitely way too gray. Let's go with a really lighter gray. There is a cool effect that we could do with a gradient trap. No, let's just go with gradient trap. Let's just make things easy. And you could just add it to the Binance text, set the start of the ramp up here, and set the end of the ramp right at the bottom of the text, like this. And we'll play around with this thing a bit more. I'm just gonna make the end color white and like the start color like a light yellow, light orange like this. Okay. You could do this, or you could even swap the colors and then just bring this thing down and have this thing up. Just kind of like this to have a hint of orange in it as well. Awesome, that looks amazing. Okay, we can play around with this to make it look a bit better. Or we could just have this to be a lighter color. Yeah, that pretty much looks as good as it's gonna get. Or we can have it go from a light orange, like that, like a super light orange to a darker orange. It could look even better. Yeah, that looks even better if I'm being honest. Okay, now the sizing of the text is a bit annoying because it is too big, so we're gonna just drop it down. Looks pretty good. Looks like a regular button to me. Maybe 80? 80 looks like too small, so let's just go with 90. 90 looks pretty solid, and I'm just going to parent this to the shape layer. So this is just going to make sure that whenever we move this bottom shape layer, everything is going to move with it. Now, one problem that you guys have to keep in mind with light sweeps and gradient traps is that they constantly move, right? Like when I move this, the gradient trap and the light sweep are going to change. It's just annoying. I think the only fix is to pre-compose them. Let me just quickly check for you. If we pre-compose them, yeah, the only fix is to pre-compose them, but it is what it is. It's okay. There's no problem. So now that we have this whole thing set up, let's quickly drop this down. We can get started to, we can just kind of get started on our next section. And the next section is going to be way more interesting than what we were just making. The next section is going to be clicking on this and changing its color, which is going to be very, very interesting. So let's go ahead and get started on doing this. So the first thing we're going to want to do is first of all make an animation for this, like a pop-up and everything. And then we're going to start creating everything. So what I'm going to do is for the first second, I'm just going to have this thing kind of pop in. And then for the 1 second to 2 seconds, we're going to have the text appear. Okay, so let me show you guys what I mean. So I'm going to move my text over to 1 second. And I'm just going to, since everything is controlled by this, I'm going to click on P, keyframe the position and move it forward to 1 second. And just kind of, or you know what, let's just have it animating. Click on S for the scale, unlink it, and click on the scale icon, keyframe. Move it to 1 second, and then just make the horizontal scale 0. It's really that simple. We're just gonna have it like pop out. Since the start is 0, just make sure that the end is 100. Like that. So we're just gonna have it appear out like this. Okay? It's nice and simple. We're just gonna make sure that it starts quick and then slows down. So make sure you're using your speed graph, not your value graph. F9, and then just have it start quick and slow down. So boom, like this. Awesome. So this thing just kind of boom, appears like that. It's pretty interesting. I like this, and I think we can just slow it down a bit more. And then for this text, we're just gonna have it appear from opacity 0 to opacity 100 over the course of 1 second. So keyframe the opacity, move the keyframe forward, and then just drop it back down to 0. Like this. I think that just looks a lot more interesting. Alright, let's see if we can have this start any earlier. Yeah, so this looks pretty interesting. Let's see if we can have it start at this point. Maybe at this point. Here. Okay, now what I don't like is the fact that this thing's scale is also being affected by it. So if I just set this to none, then all of a sudden it's just only going to pop in. And then if I parent this to that thing, it's not going to, or is it going to scale it with it? Yeah, it's going to scale it. Okay, whatever. Alright, let's just delay this a bit more, and that looks pretty good. So boom. And then we've got the word Binance appear, and let's see, we can just kind of slow this whole animation down to 2 seconds. We've got that pop-up, the word Binance appears, let's render it real quick. Awesome, I really like the way this animation looks, and then we finally end up with this, and this is where we can start getting into some things. We're going to start having the cursor icon pop in, and then do all of its magic. So we're going to have a cursor pop in, and click on this, we're going to animate the click animation, and then we can get started on our circle animation. Set out the UI, and then we'll do the duplication, and we can finish off the animation with that final piece. Okay, so this is basically like we finished up most of the hard part. The rest of this is going to be like duplicating sections, and most of it's going to be easy. So right around here, once the Binance word appears, I want to have my cursor come in. So I'm just going to go ahead and open up flat icon. So just search up flat icon. You're going to get this, and we're just going to quickly download a cursor. You guys can do this on your own. It's super simple. I want you to download one that's completely black. Okay, so we can use one like this. It's just I've got more than 3 of these, so we're gonna use a complex one like this. So let's go ahead and download this thing, and hopefully my internet's fast enough. It won't give us a problem. That's not be embarrassing, right? Oh, whoops. Yeah, let's just go whatever it is. No problem. And let's just put this in. Awesome. Let's add in our cursor like so, and now we've got a cursor inside of it. Now to make our cursor look a lot nicer, there's a few things we could do. There's actually a lot of things we could do. The first one is just add a gradient tramp to change its color. Right, so that's the first thing we do. So we're going to set the start color to a white and the end color to a black. You just do this by swapping the color. And then to set the end color to like a dark black, one thing I've been seeing very recently is people like to use a yellow influence inside of these. So we'll go with like the start color will make it a light yellow instead of just a white. And the end color will just make it like a dark orange, like this. Which just ends up looking like it's part of the scene. It just looks a lot better. Okay, so let's just make sure that we do this. Yeah, we can just go with something like this. And then one other thing I also want to do is we can add a light sweep effect, which is the same thing that I showed you guys in, like right 2 seconds ago. So we're just going to duplicate this cursor, and then we're just going to remove the gradient. Since it's already black, we don't need to add anything. We're going to add a light sweep and do that cool effect that we were talking about. So light sweep, set it at the center, make it something like this, increase the width by a lot, and then decrease the sweep intensity by a lot. Maybe we'll make the sweep intensity something like super light, something like 10 or 9, and then just set this to like a bright orange, like this. And I think that's just gonna look a lot better. So set this to add, and yeah, there we go. Looks so much nicer. So since the top color is brighter, I'm gonna invert this so that this thing is at the bottom, or we can have it be there. Yeah, you know what? The bottom just looks so much better. And yeah, that just looks so much nicer. Or we could just swap the colors, have it, the top be black, and the bottom be white, and then just have this thing on the top white. This. We could have that, but that actually looks pretty interesting. So let's go for that. And then we're just gonna add a deep glow to the top. Now, I do want to mention something. If your PC is struggling to render this, it's totally normal. We've got a lot of glows happening here. A lot of things are happening, so just take it easy on your PC. Right, now let's go ahead. We can't add a deep glow because it's a small logo, so we're going to add an adjustment layer, add the deep glow to the adjustment layer, and set the exposure to 0.5, and then just pre-compose the adjustment layer with the cursor. This is the one with the light sweep only, which means this thing is going to have a deep glow now, and then we're going to set this to add. Nice and easy, right? And now we're just going to control the opacity from here. 50% seems pretty good. Maybe 75, it's pretty interesting. And then we're just going to pre-compose both of these just so we don't run into any issues. And now we can basically just like play around with this whole thing, do whatever we want, right? So this is where it becomes really interesting. So let's go ahead and get to work on our cursor animation. Click on the scale and drop this down to like 25. 25 is the way we want to go. 25 looks pretty big, I'll be honest with you, so let's go with 15. And 15 looks pretty interesting. Okay, awesome. Let's click on B for position. And we definitely want this thing to start somewhere around here, right? And then click on this thing somewhere around this point. So we're going to keep the position here, and we're just going to have it start somewhere off screen like this, okay? Now I don't like straight animations, they look really robotic, so we're going to click on our on our pen tool, and we're just going to literally like hover over this line, and we can see a plus icon. We're just going to click, and we're going to drag out. And it's going to allow us to make a curve. So I'm just going to make a quick curve, something like this. Is pretty easy. I'm going to make it really slanted. I just want to make sure it's so light. Like that, and it just has to be something super light. Now the end position, I want it to be under my word of the Binance so people can still see the word. And I just want to select this thing, and we're going to smoothen this out. Now this is where it gets tricky, okay? So when you want to smoothen this animation out, if we could find it, I don't know why we can't see it, I'll be honest with you. Yeah, if we want to smoothen this animation out, you'll notice it looks pretty interesting. It's going to look something like this, which is going to be really weird to smooth it out. So basically all that we're trying to do is we're going to have it start quick and then slow down. But this is the issue. We have a big gap over here because of the point that we placed, okay? So we're going to just literally like drag this thing down. I'm going to do this individually. Drag this thing down, and then just speed it up, and just drag this thing up, and then speed it up. And we should end up with a smoother animation at that point, okay? Let's see how this looks. So this thing has a pause in the middle, and for that reason, we're going to eliminate this pause by dragging this all the way back, and this all the way back. And we should end up with Now, as you guys can see, there is a slight annoying pause in the middle here, and that is because all the way down here, if we actually scale in, they are, kind of pausing. So we're just gonna bring this up, just mess around with this until you get something pretty interesting. And I'm gonna bring this thing down. So I bring this thing up, and I bring this thing up like so, and this way it's a lot smoother. So, boom. Okay, that is still a bit annoying, so let's see if we can just kind of expand this a bit more, just so it keeps starting and it doesn't slow down all the way, and expand this thing a bit more, just so it's a smoother curve. Yeah, you guys can see there's a slight pause over here, which is the annoying part. Okay, so let's just go ahead and keep playing around with this until we get something really interesting. We could just like put this here, expand this a little more, bring this thing down a bit more. Oh, actually that's going to be a bit annoying. Oh, there we go, that's the trick. Bring that one down. Bring this one down as well. And now let's just bring this up. Again, I know it is a bit annoying, guys, but this is kind of part of animating, and we just need to deal with it until we get a pretty cool result. So let's just keep doing this until our graph looks smooth. That's not smooth enough. This is smooth enough. This should be pretty good. There we go. Now this is too fast. If you want to slow it down, you can always just expand it like this. And then just slow it down. Slow it down from here. We're really good to go. There we go. That just looks a lot better. And then we can finally animate our click. So we've got reveal, title, and then pop-up and click. We're gonna just have the pop-up happen at this point here. Just a lot better. And then once it gets to this point, we're going to start the click. So we're gonna click on this thing. And since everything is controlled by this shape layer down here, this one, we're just gonna control these two. So we're gonna click on S, we're going to keyframe the scale. This is how you make a click, it's so easy. You just keyframe the scale, you move a few frames forward, like this, and you drop this down to like 10. No, 10 is too much, just drop it down to 13. 13 is good. 12, if you really want to amplify it. And then you go forward again, same amount of scales. Keyframes, and then you just go back to 15. So you click in and out. And then you literally just ease these up. It looks good enough. Not even joking, that's exactly how you make it click. And now when we click, here's the difference. When you have a cursor click, it pops back out. But when you have a item click, usually you don't want it to pop back out because it just looks a lot more interesting. If it just clicks in like a button, when it clicks in and pops back out, it looks like a regular button. But when it clicks in and stays in, it's almost like it's a switch, it activated something. So to create a switch for this shape layer, we're going to click on the scale, and we're just going to add a keyframe to the scale. Make sure you don't click this icon to remove your older keyframes. Move forward, keep them linked, and bring this down to something like 90. It's that simple. And so this is like, as this thing clicks, this thing is also going to go down in size, and we can just extend this a bit more, and we're just going to ease this. And we're going to get a good result. There we go. So we got our pop-up, nice and simple, and then boom, there we go. Nice and easy. Now the thing about this is this thing popped in and opened back up, but the binance only stayed in. And it actually scales down way too much. So we're just going to go for 95, 95 looks so better. Oh, looks a lot better. Awesome. Look at that. And there we go. Awesome, nice. Now we can get to work on our cool circle animation. So the circle animation is going to be the most interesting part. As I mentioned, guys, the hardest part of this whole animation is the first 5 seconds or so. The rest of it's really just going to be duplicating and things. So to create this cool circle animation, we're just going to first create the expanding circles, and then we're going to play around with things. So let's start by adding in a shape layer and bringing it over to here. And as this thing clicks, as soon as it clicks, I want the circles to expand. So we're just going to set the shape layer to start as soon as the scale starts. For the shape layer, we're going to go with a ellipse tool, and we're just going to create a small circle by holding down Shift right down here, and I just want to align it with the center of rectangle. And the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to select the rectangle, and I'm just going to try and find its, and we go to its anchor point, you can select its anchor point, you can see it's a bit misaligned. Oh no, never mind, that's the anchor point for this one. Okay, let's just go ahead and center it like this, it's going to be good enough. And for the fill color, this is going to be the interesting part. We're just going to go, we'll create this in a bit, okay? So all I want to do is I want to click on scale, and I just want this thing to go from here and just expand all the way to here. Okay, that's literally all that I want, okay? So we're just going to start it at 0 and keyframe at 0. And we're just going to move forward. We're going to move forward a lot. This is at 3 seconds. We're going to move forward to 4 seconds and just have it expand all the way up here. And now you just have a circle expanded like this, right? And this is nice and lovely like either way. I just gotta easy it and have it start quick and slow down like this. Boom, there we go, nice and simple. And we're just going to set the fill color. We're just gonna duplicate it, and the duplicate we're just gonna delay it a bit more. And we're going to set the fill color of the duplicate to something slightly darker, like a darker, blue. And we're gonna duplicate it one more time, delay it a bit more, and then set the fill color of this one to an even darker blue. And you guys will see, I just want to show you guys the effect we're making, and then we'll do the colors. The effect we're making here is this thing, right? And that just looks awesome. So as you guys can see, it's literally all just setting a shape layer and then literally just delaying the animations. There we go. Now this animation is way too delayed. And there we go, that looks amazing. Now we're gonna do the exact same thing but change these colors. So we're gonna start with a fill color of, let's start with a light yellow. So add the fill color, select this thing, and then just select like an orange, like that. And for the second one, we're just going to do the exact same thing. We're going to go down to fill color and just like key this orange, and then just go for something darker, like a darker orange. And then for the third one, the exact same thing. So the exact same concept. Third one, just go down to your fill, right? Try and key out this dark orange, and then just go for a more orange and more dark. And you're going to get this thing. Very nice and simple. Okay. Now one thing to keep in mind is this is what our end color of the button is going to look like. Okay, so let's make sure we choose colors that we like. Now I personally don't like this dark orange for our end color, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have it go from an orange to a more gray orange to a very gray, and we're just going to have this color, this button end on a gray color. Okay, because a gray background, or at least an orange gray background, is still going to be a lot nicer for animating things on it. Okay, so we could also like bring this to life with different ways, but I definitely want to stick to this color. I think this color looks very awesome. Maybe something slightly lighter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this last section. I'm going to go back to my main, big boy rectangle, and we're just going to go over to our effect controls and copy the 4-color gradient. And then we're going to go over to our circle, the final one. We're just going to paste this 4-color gradient on it. Okay. So this is what I want the last color of the button to look like. All right. Awesome. So with this being said, because this really looks so good, I'm going to go to the one before it and see how I can blend all these two different colors so they can transition to this. The first color we're going to have, and the way that we're going to do this, is the first color is just going to be this exact same gradient, right? So it's going to be the same color, just really light. So it's going to be the same color, just really light, like so. Or it just could start something like this. Yeah, then go towards lighter. Okay, so we're going to start with like a light color like this, and then we're going to go for the second fill, and we're just going to try this and see if it works, okay? And we're just going to go with a similar color, just slightly lighter, and then we can go with the darkest one. So Binance, and then you've got the pop-ups, and we get this cool button. Yeah, I think that just looks a lot better. Awesome. And there we go. And then this thing is going to be the end color of our rectangle. Awesome. Now, how do we make them fit inside of the button? You might be wondering, how do we actually make these pop only inside of the button? Well, it's really, really easy. You just have to add a shape layer. And then on the shape layer, we're just going to put this on top of all of these, and just bring it over here. And we're literally just going to copy the exact shape, same shape we have here. So we're just going to go down to our contents, and we copy the rectangle, and we go to the top shape, and we're just going to paste it. And the only difference is we're just going to make this thing basically invisible, and we're going to track matte everything to it. So we just track matte this thing to the shape layer, and this thing to the shape layer 6, and this thing to shape layer 6, which means these are only going to pop in inside of our shape layer 6. And you can see that. There you go. Yeah. You guys can see what that looks like. Now, problem is we placed shape layer 6 in a bad way. So let's go ahead and undo all of this. So let's move forward slightly to after the click. And let's make these all visible for now. And let's just size this until we get the same shape layer, which was at 95, right? This was it. Yeah, so this was our shape layer. Now we can track that everything to our shape layer 6, which looks amazing. Okay, and now we're going to make them visible so we can see it. And there we go. Awesome. Okay. So you guys can see what we end up with. I'm going to put this all under the cursor. Pop up, and then bam. That just looks super clean. And then the final part is obviously we have the glow here. So and the best way to do this and not lose it is to basically just keep the glow. So all we gotta do is just put the shape layer under our, sorry, not under, all we gotta do is put all of these under our glow layer. So this is our glow layer, this is our main background. So we just put these above our main background under our glow layer, which means the Binance is still gonna pop through, which I actually don't mind. I think it's still a good idea. So, bam. Awesome. And now as these kind of pop in, what I also want is I want the word Binance to kind of disappear. And so we could literally just do this with a fade in transition. So we just click on opacity, and then we'll go to the end of this animation and we'll just kind of fade it out like this. I think that just looks pretty awesome. So if we make this pretty quick, like that, this looks a lot better. So pop in and then Binance and then bam, looks amazing. And then we can start doing all of our cool animations. So with that being said, now that Binance kind of disappears from here, we can just kind of cut it out, just so we don't get confused. So Binance just disappears like that, and then, yeah, everything else looks pretty solid. So we're just gonna select all of these and then shorten it down, and let's get to work on our next section. So our next section is where the next text comes in. So we have the text on the left side come in, and we've got the pop-up of the icon on the right side. And then we can start duplicating it, and we can finalize it with our, arrows animation at the end. So let's add in the next text. So we're going to just duplicate this Binance layer and bring it on top. I'm just gonna make sure it's not tracked to anything, okay? Place it right here. So now we've got another shape layer here with a transition of a fade in. We're gonna delete the fade out over here. Let's remove the fade in as well, and let's start by just adding our text at opacity 100. And we're just gonna start with listing off, like the way we're gonna do this is we're just gonna have this, first of all, let's make the cursor go back, because right now it's just kind of stuck here. So we're going to just copy this thing over here. So once we've clicked on it, we're going to copy this thing here, and we're just going to copy this thing here. Right, and we're just going to go and split that like so. Like that. Yeah, there we go. That just looks a lot better. Okay, so with this being said, we've got our pop in, and then we're going to just start having things kind of pop into frame and so on. Okay, so let's start with the words. We're just gonna have everything, all this is gonna be like kind of structured like this. We're gonna have a title, a subtitle, and an icon here. And we're just going to have, I'll try and come up with different words of like crypto coins. Okay, I'm not too familiar with crypto, but let's just go ahead and get this started. So let's first start with, obviously the most famous one, Bitcoin. I think that's how you write it. Caps C. Let's just do caps. And we're just going to place this thing in the top left at a scale of something like 75, way less, 55. We're just going to place this thing in the top left over here. That looks pretty interesting. Okay, awesome. That looks pretty good. And then we're just going to start creating our animation. So actually, we could just leave this now. Let's duplicate it. Let's first lay out the UI, and then we'll create all the animation. Duplicate this and bring it down, and then for this one, we're going to double click and make sure we're using the light. And this is just going to be, we're just going to write out the quick description. So Bitcoin is going to boost crypto coins on the market. So one thing we need to keep in mind is we need to set both of these so that they start from the left. That way when we write things, it's always aligned. And now we can click on P and then realign them to where we want them to be. So we want this Bitcoin thing to be over here. Okay, now for the actual bio, as you guys can see, it's actually pretty big, right? So we're gonna, first of all, size this thing down by a lot and size it down to something like this. And then we're just going to take the variation in the height between lines, which is this one, and we're just gonna bring that down because that is too big. And that looks pretty interesting. And then we're just going to place it right under our Bitcoin, just like that. And that looks pretty interesting. That looks like a very good bio. Now we're just gonna click on the opacity of our Bitcoin. We're gonna make sure this is at 80% because that looks more realistic. And this thing at 50% because that also looks a bit more realistic. Awesome, that looks as good as it's going to get. Okay, and then we're also going to have these two, just make sure that they are at the center of it. Like this. That looks super high quality. And finally, we're just going to have an icon of Bitcoin over here. Or we can have an icon of a shopping cart to signify that they're going to be buying something. So let's go over to here and let's go over to shopping cart. Let's just choose a shopping cart icon that we like that just signifies that they're going to be buying something. Okay, so let's go with trying to think of which one would look the nicest. How are we going to design this as well? Yeah, let's just go with this one for now. I think it's going to be the best. We'll just go with this one. Okay, awesome. Let's go over to here and then just add these shopping cart right here. And we're just going to have these be as long as we possibly could because we're going to be using these layers throughout the entire thing. Okay, now let's scale this thing down and let's add this thing on the right side here. And I want to make it look more like a button, like a UI button. So I'm going to show you guys exactly how I do this. I'm going to add a shape layer. This is just kind of stuff coming off the top of my mind right now. We'll add an animation for this, but this is important that we get this down first time. And we're just going to use our rectangle tool to create a rectangle or a square. Sorry, right here. And then just make sure that it is pretty round. So we want the square to be pretty round. So let's go with something like that. Looks pretty awesome. And then we're just going to make its position on the left side right here. Just so that both of these are centered. Just make sure that the anchor points have the center, like that. And then we're going to add a few different things. So we're going to add a gradient ramp to the icon. And we're just going to set the start color to a dark kind of gray. Make sure that the start is up here and the end is down here. And then we're just going to make the end something like a dark brown. Right, that looks pretty awesome. That looks a lot more like an icon. And then the thing that highlights icons very well is that they always have a drop shadow and the icon itself is always colored. So since this thing is a shopping cart icon, we're going with a yellow theme. We're going to go with a yellow theme for the shopping cart icon as well. So pretty straightforward. The way we're going to do this is we can actually make this look so much better by adding a gradient ramp and then just setting the start to a light gray and the end to a darker gray. Like this. And I'll show you guys how we can make this thing look a lot nicer. So we can actually swap these. No, actually that looks best. Okay. That looks pretty interesting. I think both of these need to be scaled down. So let's just make sure both of them have the similar anchor point and click on S and then scale them down a little bit. I'll definitely not do that. Just scale both of them down. Yeah, let's not do that. Let's just scale each one. Eventually I think something like this size will work really good. Okay, and then let's just make sure it's centered pretty nicely. Looks good. I don't think this looks centered, so I'm just going to move it to here. Just do it by hand, it looks a lot better. Okay, that looks pretty good for a icon. Let's keep refining this, making this a bit better. The better we can make this, the high quality it's going to look. I think we need darker colors for both of these. Actually, that looks pretty interesting. Maybe a darker color for this thing. Maybe a darker start color. Yeah, that just looks a lot nicer. And then for the shopping cart, I was just thinking of adding something like a light sweep. And then just setting it here. Just adding, I need a touch of orange on this. So perhaps increasing this width. That looks pretty good already, honestly. But this thing needs to be colored. So maybe with a light orange, and then we can change the gradient of this thing. Alright, you know what? Let's try changing the gradient color to an orange. So a light orange like that on top and a dark orange at the bottom. Yeah, that just looks a lot better, honestly. And then if we just kind of apply the same thing to the bottom layer. So dark layers, but orange influenced dark layers. So something like a dark orange up here, and then a light orange over here. Like that just looks a lot better. I don't know. But it does blend in, so let's see how we can fix this. Yeah, that just looks the absolute best. Okay, awesome. That looks the best. This thing is too bright, so I'm going to darken this a bit more. It's really, really bright. I could go with either a gray. Yeah, it just looks a little better. And then we're just going to add a drop shadow to this thing. Do this bad boy right here. And then we're just going to extend the drop shadow and over to this side, right here. And yeah, we can soften this for like a subtle icon. We can actually soften this, so this looks pretty interesting. And then just drop the opacity to 25%. And finally, let's parent the grocery store to the shape layer, just to make sure they're both controlled by it. Okay. Now, awesome. Let's go ahead and add a few quick animations. We're going to parent the bio to the big Bitcoin word. We're going to have this whole thing kind of pop in from the bottom, so we're going to keyframe this position at this point, move forward a little bit, and then just have it start slightly lower like this. We're going to go into our speed graph, just have it start quick and slow down, boom, just like this, nice and simple, and then we're just going to like extend this thing out a bit more, boom, just like this, and then we're going to select both of these, click on T for transparency, keyframe the current opacity, move it forward, and just have them both start at 0. Just like this, and that looks awesome. Let's go ahead and make sure that both of these are aligned. Looks good. I think if we make this slower, it's going to be better. Okay, awesome. So we got the pop-up, and then we also need a pop-up for this thing. So since this thing controls everything, we're just going to keyframe the position, move the position forward, right, like here maybe, and then just have it start at the bottom of our thing. Quick to slow, and just same exact concept, and then we're just going to do the exact same opacity keyframe that we have been making. So select both of these, click on T, keyframe the opacity, click on U so you can see all these keyframes, bring the opacity at the end, and have them start at 0. Awesome. Okay, so we've got a cool animation for these two. We're just going to delay this thing a bit more. So have it pop up and this thing pops in. And I also want to do one more thing, just have the opacity start in a bit later. It just looks a lot nicer for some reason. Same thing for this. And then one more thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually bring both of these so that they start earlier, which just sound like it looks a lot better. So we click on this, and I want it to start here, right here. There we go, now we're talking. So we click on it, and then we have this start. Awesome. Looks amazing. So pop-up, Binance, click, and then pop-up. Looks awesome. Let's go ahead and see how we can make this a bit better. If we delay this a bit more, and then if we place this, I'm just wondering, if we place these, okay, I just want to test something. Let's see. Wait. Yeah, you know what, this looks nice. Awesome. Okay, I hope this is making sense for everyone, and I hope everything is super understandable. And then we've got our pop-up. Now I do want to add some deep glow to this just to make everything look a bit better. I don't think we need deep glow anywhere specifically. I think this just looks super good. And now we're just going to have our pop-up and everything. So I don't think we'll need deep glow. But if I were to add deep glow, I'd probably add it to the shopping cart or add it to the whole thing and just make it super light. Even though I don't think we need it right now. So let's move on to our next scene where they start to pop out behind of it. So we've got our pop in like this. And then we're just going to let's see, we're just going to transition to a scene where just a bunch of them kind of fly out from behind everything, and then we're going to transition to our movement scene, and we are basically finished. So let's go ahead and finish this bad boy. So we've got the transition of everything, and this is going to be the most tricky part, okay? We need to first of all assess what exactly this is right now, okay? So the layers that are on this are the shopping cart, the background, we've got the text, so all of these are necessary, right? All of these are super necessary right now. And then we've got this background, which is basically the empty shape layer. That's just a trackpad, which is very important. And then we've also got a few other things. So we've got the pre-composition, which we won't need to worry about this. And then we also have this Binance, which we don't need to worry about this. We've got this shape layer, which is the glow, which should actually be on top of all these, by the way, just because it looks a lot better. Yeah, this just looks a lot better. There we go, that just looks so much nicer. And then we've also got these three, which are basically our background, which aren't really necessary because only this thing is necessary. Because you can see with the rest of them, like if I unhide this, it's a different thing. But if I leave this, this is the best one, so it's the most important one. So this is the only important one, okay? So we're gonna leave these as they are, but we need to just remember that this is part of our background, and so is everything else, okay? So we're gonna get to a point where our background now looks solid and stable. So I'm gonna get to here, and just to avoid confusion, I'm gonna make a cut in all my layers and just keep the ones I need. So to avoid my any like weird confusion, I'm gonna make a cut in everything. And I'm just going to only keep the ones I'm going to need, okay? So let's make sure we close these down. Actually, we don't need to make cut everything. Like we're gonna need the background at all times. This thing, if we cut it and deleted it, obviously won't affect it. So we're gonna get rid of it. This thing, if we cut it and delete it, won't affect us. Cut it and delete it, won't affect us. This thing, definitely need this. This is our backup. Cut it and delete it, we no longer have a backup. So let's keep this thing. The pre-composition, cut it and delete it, won't affect us, but we are going to use it in the future, so we're just going to leave it here. This thing, cut it and delete it, it's going to affect us. So let's leave it. These, obviously, we're going to need, and this, we're obviously going to need. So I just wanted to keep all of these as a cut, and then just move them over to the, just leave them as they are, just to make sure that everything is nice and clear. So notice now we're running into an issue. The issue that happened is because we've cut up our track mat, it's no longer tracking it, okay? So we're just gonna, like do the cut, but we're also just gonna make sure that we have our track mat. So our track mat is this layer, this track matted onto shape layer 6. So when we make this cut, we gotta keep that in mind. We can actually cut everything else except this, and we're gonna be good to go. And just like this. Awesome. Now, even if we did want to do this, we could literally like make the cut here, and then also do go through the track mat. But why am I cutting this? I'm cutting this so that I now have all these layers that make up this rectangle. So I'm going to cut this thing as well, and just make sure this thing is track matted. This new one is track matted to this new shape layer, which is layer, whatever it's called, layer 10. So layer 6 is now layer 10, okay? So because it's a cut and everything is the same position, nothing's going to change, okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring all of these, holding down control, bring all of these layers to the top. Guys, I know this is confusing, but it's going to really help you train your mind on After Effects. So bring all these layers to the top, and now I've got all these layers set together, which basically all in all form this big rectangle UI. So I can just duplicate this as much as I want, and I can have it all over the place, which is exactly what I want to do, okay? So, let's also, got this, we forgot to cut it, my bad. And I just want to do this just so I can understand that this is the first UI animation, and the second one is now this thing. Now, all of these are individual, they're all different. So what I want to do is I want to make sure I add a layer on top of all this, just to make sure everything is controlled by one layer, so I can make this all super simple for me, okay? So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to right click, and guys, we're about to get into a lot of layers, okay? So just get ready. I'm going to add we could do a null object, we could do an adjustment layer. Let's just do an adjustment layer because it's the easiest. And I'm going to parent it to everything below it. So I'm going to parent this thing to the top layer, right? And we're going to try this. If we run into any issues, we can do this, but if it works, that's going to be awesome. So parent this to the top layer, parent this to the top layer, parent this to the top layer. But we can't do that because this thing's parented to it. Okay, so then we're on to our first issue. We can't actually parent this. So how do we fix this? Since all these are like parented to random things, this thing is parented to shape layer this, right? So when I move it, oh, it's not. Okay, so we're going to start doing new parents. So this thing's going to get parented to this shape layer. So now when I move my background here, this thing moves with it. Right, so if I move this up and down, nope, running into some issues. Okay. How do we fix this and make this as easy as possible? One easy fix we could just do is literally just like pre-compose the whole thing. So make a few pre-compositions. And that would be pretty easy, because if we add adjustment layer on top of this, we can parent everything to it and then just move it. Let's think about this. This is actually interesting. I never thought I'd run into this issue. So let me describe the issue for you guys so you can think with me, so we can find a conclusion and learn something from it. The problem is we got to a point where our UI animation looks clean and everything, but there's a lot of complex layers. So how do we make sure that all of this is grouped into as like one big animation? We can always right click and can we create a group from this? We probably can't group all these together. We can, one thing I am thinking of, which is like a kind of like a practical way of doing this, is just duplicating them and then pre-composing everything, which I think is just going to look the best. So you know what? I'm going to go with this, okay? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to select all of this, and we're going to click Control D, and we're going to drag all of these up to the top. All the ones that are selected now are our second duplicate. So we're going to right click and pre-compose these, okay? Now we've got a second pre-composition. What the heck just happened? With everything that we just kind of copied. Now obviously we might run into some issues like this. So let's dissect exactly why that's happening. The anchor point is correct. The shape layer is parented to something different. So let's just make sure that we parent it to the correct one. So I'm going to move these forward just a bit so we can see them. And I want to just parent this one to this shape layer right here, which is shape layer 12. Okay, let's give this now a try. If we pre-compose these, does this thing work? It does, and it works awesome. There we go. And now we can actually move this, like place it up top here, and if we double click on here, and we can click on like these different individual things, we can change like Bitcoin, whatever we want, and if we change it inside here, it shouldn't affect anything outside, right? This thing can stay Bitcoin, and this thing can be different, which is exactly what we want to do, okay? So let's go ahead and do this for a few different ones. So we're going to select this thing and duplicate. If you're wondering why aren't you duplicating the pre-composition, because if I duplicate the pre-composition, that means whatever I change in one of them is going to affect all of them, which is exactly why we don't want that. So we duplicate it again, bring it to the top, remember? Make sure you parent this top layer to the bottom one, which is shape layer 12, and then select all of these, right click and pre-compose. Let's quickly test, is this working? It is indeed working, okay? I want to do this 1, 2, 3 times. Forward. We got 2 already. If we just place them on top of each other, we'll have another one. Let's just do it one more time. Okay, we're not going to overcomplicate it for us. If you guys want to do more, by all means go for it. Select all of them, duplicate, bring it to the top, like so, move a bit forward. Make sure that the top layer is parented over to here. Select all of this, right click and pre-compose. So again guys, we're doing quick fix for this just because we don't want to overcomplicate it. Now, let's make sure that they all start at the same point. The one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and list out different Bitcoins. So let's go into pre-composition 5 and let's just go ahead and, whoops, let's make sure by the way that all of them are working correctly. Yeah, for example, this one we pre-composed it without this shape layer, which is this one. Right? I believe so. Yeah, I think we pre-composed this one without its shape layer. So let's duplicate it. That's the shape layer we're talking about. This one. And now if we pre-compose it, should work. Does it work? Nope, still not working. So do these two work? These two do work. So what's the difference? Sorry guys, minor issues. So let's quickly, what the heck? Let's go ahead and quickly dissect the main problem. So our everything before just works perfectly. So let's select it, duplicate it, bring it to the top. And then the shape layer 15 to shape layer 12 should be this thing. Now if we move this. Are we missing a certain duplicate? Or okay, there it is now. It worked out. Sorry, excuse me guys, just running into a few second problems. So let's just make sure that they are all starting. Oops, sorry, they are all starting at the same exact point, and we're just going to have them start here. We're just going to leave them like this. Okay, we're going to put these all below all of our previous layers, which form the top one. So I'm just also going to pre-compose these, and just make sure that this is our new pre-composition. Okay, so now if we go over to this, whoops, sorry, I forgot to do our parenting. So now if we pre-compose all of these together, we should end up with a pre-composition that creates all this, okay? Don't worry too much about the weird glows, these are all going to be fixed, okay? So we're going to notice that if we cut, nothing changes except the weird glow, which we all are going to fix right now. It's just because of these weird layers behind it. So if we like hit these, you can see it works, okay? Now we're just going to go in and write out a bunch of different Bitcoins. So we're going to start with pre-composition 5, which we're just going to leave regular. 4, 3, and 6 are all going to be different. So 4, we're going to change the word Bitcoin to a theory. Sorry, I don't know how to write a theory. We're just going to write it out like this. And we're just going to write out the same exact bio, but for a theory. Okay? That's literally all we're going to do. And this is just because I'm being lazy, but if you were using this in a video, just make sure you write out the proper bio for this. So that's pre-composition 4. Pre-composition 3, I don't know any more Bitcoins, so I'm just going to start making things off the top of my head. Let's just call this, I think I remember Dogecoin. And then we're just going to also add another bio to it. There we go. And also that looks good. And then for 6, what's another one? Let's go with Solana. Awesome. Okay, amazing. And there we go. We've got 3 different Bitcoins now. Now all that we're going to do is we're just going to animate these coming out. So the thing is, we need to make sure pre-composition 5 is on top of these, which is the regular Bitcoin, just so we don't have any weird cuts. And now we're going to have them all animate out. So what I first want to happen is I want pre-composition 4 to animate out, and then 3, and then 6. Okay? So we're going to have, click on P here, keyframe the current position. Then I'm going to go to like second 6, and I'm just going to have it pop over to the top, like this. Okay? And then I'm going to click on the position for this bad boy, keyframe its current position. Go also to like something after second 6, and we're just going to have it place itself right in between these, like so. And then we're going to go on the position of this bad boy, and then we're just going to move forward and just have it come down over here. Just make sure, quick tip, make sure the distance between all of these is the exact same. That's really going to go a very long way in making sure that everything looks solid. So you guys can notice at the end here, let's first put all these keyframes on top of each other just so we can do this example for you guys. At the end here, they're all pretty good, but there's slight minor differences and everything is in the detail, okay? So just make sure like this distance is the same as the top one, and this distance is this distance is the exact same as well as this one. Okay, now we do need to change this one as well. Okay, and there we go. That just looks so much better. Awesome. And now we've got this kind of like cool UI animation. So we have all these weird different bottoms, okay? And they are all very robotic, so let's go ahead and do our cool speed graph. So we're just gonna make sure that all of them start super quick and end super slow. Okay, so that's kind of the ideal way that we want to do this. And we want to have them start very, very quick and end very, very slow. That's kind of the whole point of this. Start very quick, end very slow. Same thing over here. Start very quick, end very slow. Whoops. Okay, and the final thing we're going to be doing is just making sure that this one's like ends here, this one ends here, this one ends here. And the reason we do this is just so that we can get better, cooler results like that. Amazing. Awesome. Okay, so let's see. So we got pop-up, cursor comes in, clicks on it, pop in, pop out, and then we're gonna have the rest of our animation happen here. And there we go. That is literally as easy as it's gonna get. Now one more thing we can do is change these things colors slightly, just to make them a bit better. So I'm gonna go into pre-composition number 4, which is our Ethereum, and I'm gonna make it go green, because like, why not, right? So all we gotta do is just go to our effect controls, set this to like a green color, like that, and go over to our shape layer and set these to more green influence colors. So stuff like this, stuff like that. And this is just a touch of detail that makes things look a lot better. Go over to our gradient tramp, set the second color to a green. Go over to our Ethereum gradient tramp, set the other color to a green. Again, this just takes a second, but it's gonna make a whole difference. Let's go to our shopping cart, make sure that the start color is a green and the end color is a green, like so. And then go over to the light sweep, make it a green as well, and everything is going to turn green, everything. Okay, and then the final part is the actual shape layer background that we've got. Let's just make sure everything is a green color. Just like this. And this is just gonna go a long way in making things look a lot nicer. I promise you, it's gonna make an extra touch of detail. Awesome, there we go. That looks amazing. And there we go, like you can see, it makes a huge difference. For Dogecoin, we're gonna go with, let's go with red for Dogecoin. So Dogecoin is shape layer 3. So same thing, right? Start with the top one, go with red, and then grocery store, just make sure all of these are red. Right, this is easy stuff. Red. I do think red is a very underrated color for animations. I think one of the best animations ever. Okay, awesome. Just make sure to turn all of these to red. Shadow color as well. Just everything, absolutely everything. Let's turn the bottom gradient color to red, and the bottom gradient color, this one to red. So we're just gonna have them start at a light yellow just because it looks better, and then we're gonna just do the shape layer magic stuff. So this one can stay the same. This one just needs to be red on all sides. Awesome. That looks amazing. Okay, there we go. And then we're gonna go back to our main composition. Looks very nice. And finally, we've got Solana, which is this one, I believe, and we're just gonna go with the purple for this one. Okay. So for this one, let's just go with the purple. So dark purple, which is right here, and then let's go with grocery store thing. Purple. Oops. Okay, I need to do that. Only select the purple. Only select the purple. Only select the. Okay, let's do that for the rest of these. Okay, and color to purple too. And color to purple. And same thing for these shape layers here. Oops. There we go. Awesome. Amazing. Solana now looks purple. And there we go. We now just have a bunch of different bitcoins. And look at just how much cooler that looks. Awesome. So we've got the pop-up, and then boom, everything else kind of comes out of the way, which looks amazing. Now, as these pop up, We're almost done, guys. Like, final few steps. As these kind of come out, we're going to have two selector icons come on the bottom. So we're just going to have two arrows kind of pop in that we can choose to select what we want to do next, which is just going to be really easy. I'll show you guys exactly how you can do this. And then we're just going to, once we click that, we're going to have everything move to the left, and we're just going to have like a Bitcoin logo popping on the right side, or a Binance logo. In this case, we're going to go with the Binance logo, just have it pop in on the right side, and we are good to go. And that's the end of the animation. Okay? Let's go ahead and quickly make this. To make our selector icons, it is so easy. All you got to do is download a arrow icon. So just go with arrow, if I know how to type. And we just need something like, something simple, honestly. It's all we need. These can look good. I'm just trying to think which one would look the nicest. These would look pretty good as well. They would just be hard to deal with. These would look pretty interesting too. I think we're just going to go with these, okay? Just go with these because I think these look the nicest. Give it a moment, and let's just go ahead and get started on this quick animation. It's going to be so easy. Trust me. We'll add the arrow icon up here, and then we're just going to, first of all, let's create the cool icon that we want to make, which is basically just going to be made up of it and a shape layer behind it. So we're going to add a shape layer under it, and then just bring this shape layer over to this side right here, and we're just going to create a cool square like that. Awesome. Then we're just going to go down in the rectangle over to the roundness, and we're just going to increase the roundness until we get something like an icon, which looks something like this. An icon is pretty round, and then we're just going to add a gradient ramp, and we're going to make it like, let's just leave it this color, and we're just going to have this at like 40% transparency. Okay, and you guys will see why in just a second. Let's choose the color to be like a dark gray to a black, which just looks a lot better. Or actually we could go dark gray to just a darker gray, which just looks a lot better. Okay? And then for the actual icon, we could just have it be a white color. And white always just works really good. So we're just gonna add gradient, right, and just make sure it goes from white to slight gray. That's usually how it works. That's way too gray for it. Let's just make sure we go with a lighter color like that. And then we're just gonna scale this thing down to like 80, like this, which just looks a lot better. And finally, let's just play around with this thing's opacity until we get pretty cool results. So something like 50 would probably look better. Okay, still too weird. Let's go for 60 in this thing. Yeah, you know what? It's not bad. It'll get the job done. It's okay. Let's make this look a lot better, but it's fine. Add a drop shadow to this back layer here, and then just add a bunch of, oh sorry. We're going to need to make this a bit different. So let's just go ahead and bump up the opacity all the way. That's kind of what we have to do. And we're going to need to make the gradient ramp. Let's remove the gradient ramp. Okay, I'm just trying to think of how we could do this. You know what, let's leave it as it is, and then we're just going to duplicate it. And on our duplicate, we can remove the gradient ramp, and remove the fill, and just add a drop shadow. So this way, oh whoops, I removed the wrong one, excuse me. I removed the gradient ramp. So we're going to go to our top layer, and remove the fill, and the gradient ramp, which means it's basically just an empty layer. We're just going to add a drop shadow to it. And it should work, I believe. Maybe not, actually. I don't know. Yeah, that doesn't work. Whoops. Why does After Effects want to give me headaches right now? No drop shadow. Don't even worry about it. We'll just go with the glow. That looks better. I just wanted to add a glow for this thing. Deep glow. And I think that's just going to look the best. Okay, we'll just make sure to add this as an adjustment layer. Okay, so let's parent this thing to the shape layer, and let's scale the shape layer down, and then just have it, just have it here. So we're just going to place it over here on the right side, like so. And one more thing we can actually add to this layer down here, we can even add like a Gaussian blur, make this thing a UI button. We could have added the adjustment layer with a Gaussian blur, which just might look a lot better, honestly. Thinking of it, this is just a quick change we can make. I want to make this the best possible animation for you guys, so let's go ahead and make this adjustment layer. And you guys remember this effect. It's super simple. It's the same one we made in the Josh Leon style. It's a very simple effect. Add a mask right here. It doesn't have to be a perfect one. And literally just add a Gaussian. That's literally it. And by by doing this, it's just going to look a lot better. Yeah, this just looks so much nicer. And then just add like a brightness and contrast. And then just bump up the brightness. Like just a tiny bit. And yep, that looks a lot better, honestly. Okay, let's just make sure that this thing is at the center of it, like so. And also, let's scale it down a little, because right now it is pretty big. Yeah, that looks a lot better. And then we're just going to turn down the opacity on this. It's very, very, very opacious. Let's go with a color like that. Awesome. We can also like make this a bit more circular. This thing, if you want to make it a bit more circular, there are ways you can do this. You can literally just add a mask inside of it. You can literally just add some expansion to the mask. That's going to be more circular, like that. If you want to do this, why not? And then let's just go for this. 65. Great. Compare distance to that, and then move the adjustment layer over to, let's make it 50. And then let's just move it over to the right side, over here. And then just scale, bring it down over here. That's literally all that we have to do. Okay? And this one's going to be really simple. The transition we're just going to have for this is literally just an opacity faded. It's really easy. So we're going to keyframe both of these over here and just have them start at 0. Like that. And that's just going to be really easy. Now let's just make sure that these are a lot smoother. And then like that. And let's just ease them, because why not? It's just one click and it'll give us a very cool effect. Bam, there we go. And I think that just looks a lot better. One thing we can add, just as a touch of detail, keyframe the position, move the position forward, and then just have it start slightly lower. And this is just going to give us a quick and simple pop-up. Nice and simple. I like this. Okay, and honestly, it is still too big, so we're going to make this 30. It is way too big. Bam. There, looks awesome. Now, all we have to do is literally duplicate this, bring these to the top. Make sure the top one's parented to the right, adjustment there, and then literally just have the exact same one, but just move it to the left side, which means all we have to do is literally click on S on the scale. Since both of them are controlled by the bottom one, I'm going to unlink this, and I can literally set this up as 30, and I'll be good. There we go, it just inverted itself. Or I can use the invert effect on this, if I wanted to, make it invert this. Sorry, not the colors, it's called flip effect, sorry. I believe it's called horizontal flip. Unlink, minus 30. Whoops. Unlink, and then minus 30 on the X. And then just like literally click on P, and then move it. You can actually do this with the anchor point just to preserve that animation, to make sure there are no issues. Move it to this side. There we go, we hit our top. Awesome. And then now we're just going to add a quick glow to them just to make them look a lot better. And finally, we're going to finish off this animation with our last scene. I know I dragged you guys through a lot, but this is teaching you guys a lot about animating. It's going to make you guys amazing animators. Set this thing to 0.5, and then just kind of pre-compose it with the rest of these. Yeah, there we go. Oh, that takes away the whole point of the... Let's just pre-compose it with the arrow animations. Like that. That's one of them. Whoops. Issues with the parent. You know what? We'll just leave it this way. That's just going to go. Don't worry about it. Okay. And then the final step is to just go on to our next scene. We don't even need to worry about the deep stuff. I don't want to overcomplicate this for you guys. It's already complicated enough. But so far we have a pretty cool animation. So pop in and then click and then pop up and then boom with a UI selection. And this is where we can bring our cursor back. So we're basically just going to keyframe the current position right here, and we're going to bring it over to the side here. I'm just going to bring it over to our. We just gotta make sure that it's on top of this. And we just have to bring this over to our arrow icon here, and then just make it click. Okay. So we're just gonna have it come in quickly, like that, and then we'll do the click right here. So click on S, and then we're just going to, once it gets to this point, we're going to keyframe the scale, and then just have back up to 13 or 15, sorry. And then we'll just, make sure that these all start after this animation. Boom, like that, and then also animates itself back down. So we're gonna paste this one, and we're also going to copy this one and paste it right in here, just so we have it kind of appear back out, and also just have it start slow and end fast. It's awesome. So we got pop in, click, and then pop out. And then for the click, while it is clicking, we're just going to select since this adjustment layer, this one over here, is controlled by the adjustment layer, this one, right? If we change the scale, all changes with it, so we're going to keyframe the current scale, and then we're just going to move forward and just have it drop down to 25. I think it's pretty good. Something like that. And we're just going to have it start quick. Like this. And all I'm going to do to create a very cool effect is I'm just going to select the axis adjustment. Let's use this. I'm just going to select all of these, click on T, because they are controlled by opacity, keyframe the opacity, and then move forward, and then just have them fade to 0. You see what kind of cool effect it is. Okay. And we just have to extend these a bit more. And maybe just have this one last thing. Like that. This looks best. Yeah, that looks best. So and then click. There we go. Now once this click happens, this is the magic part. It is super interesting. We just select all of these, click on P, and then keyframe all of these positions right here. And then we're just going to keyframe these positions as well. And then we're just going to move forward. And we're just going to have all of them move to the left side. Okay? It's as simple as it gets. So move them to the left side like this, and then we're just going to smoothen it out. So we're going to have them all just kind of move at the same speed. We can also have them like have a bit of randomness, which might just be a bit more interesting actually. So let's just actually do each one individually to make sure that they all have a bit more randomness in them. Okay, so start slow and also end slow is the way we want to do these. Okay. Start slow, end slow, like this. And then start slow, end slow. Like this. Amazing. Okay. And then finally, we're just going to make sure that they all end and start at the same point. There we go. Everything looks interesting, so and we've got all of them moving over to the left. And as they're moving over to the left, we've got this thing pop off. So we have pop out, click, and then when this thing goes away, we're going to just have the Binance logo here. So I'm not sure if there's a Binance logo on flat icon. There could be. Yeah, there is. Awesome. That's all that we need. We just need one that's flat like this, and we'll just create everything. So we just want one that's a plain color, and then we're going to download it, and then we're just going to add it in. Add it over at this point here, and this is where the magic is going to happen. So let's get started on, it's filled in, it's not empty. Let's find an empty one, because this one's going to cause us some issues. Let's find an empty one. Please tell me there is an empty one. If there isn't, there's just a white one like this, that's also going to work. This is a PNG. Let's give it a try. Why not? Is this a PNG? Please tell me. No. That's it. Okay. We could always just go with, we could always just mask out the alpha value. You know what, let's just download this and make the icon ourselves. It's just going to be a lot more time efficient and see exactly how we can make this. Okay, we'll figure this out ourselves. So we're going to add this icon in. And what I'm thinking is all we have to do is literally just add a shape layer behind it and just make it a circle and just add a cool background and a cool effect on the icon, and then we're going to be good to go. That's literally the final step, guys. So, ellipse, hold down shift, make something cool, and then make sure that the position is centered with the icon. Close enough. Doesn't really need to be perfect. Then we're just going to add the gradient ramp effect for this bad boy. Right, gradient ramp for this bad boy, and then we're going to have it start with a bright yellow, bright orange, something like this, and then just end with a more reddish orange, or yellowish orange, I'm not sure. Yeah, maybe this And then to just add that level of detail, we're going to take this thing and really try to it and set the start to, this is where the magic happens, which to red, I think that's going to be. Let's see, how can we make this look even better? So let's use lighter colors for a more professional feel. Lighter and darker colors is the way we want to go. And let's just make sure that the lighter color is an orange, just to make sure we fit the theme. And then we're just going to take the background and then just go with really light colors for this one. So light yellow and then just dark yellow. Dark orange, just look better. Maybe struggling to make this look good. Yeah, let's just go with something like this. That's pretty cool. Okay, yeah, why not? Why the heck not? Let's just add a light sweep to this thing. Light sweep, put the light sweep in the center here. Just increase the width, and then just set the glow to a bright yellow. Just a little more better. And then maybe we should just replace this with a full color green. It'll look a lot better. Maybe even set the points on the edges here. Just trying to make this last scene look as good as possible before we finish this off, guys. Awesome. Let's just have the start color be something like a light gray. Let's go with gray colors for everything. And let's see how we can make this look better. So obviously dark is green. And we'll just have one of them be lighter. Okay? This way everything looks interesting. This thing could just be a light orange. Yeah, I think that just looks a lot better. And now we just need to replace these with orange influence colors, as we did before. So one here, one like this, and then one like this. Yeah, that just looks a lot better, honestly. And now the final point is deep glow. That's literally it, okay? So we're gonna just drag this thing to this, and then just put this thing in that inside here. Shrink it down. All these things come here. This thing is going to be on the right side, like so. And we're just going to have it pop in from the right side. Put it in the position, keyframe it here, and then just have it come in from the right side, like so. Let's select both. Start quick and slow down, like that. And that looks as good as it's going to get. Make sure you've got motion blur to toggle on these layers, because these ones will make it look really good. And we'll toggle motion blur on everything right now, and just to make sure that it all looks pretty interesting, which is just going to look so much better. Now we're just going to add a adjustment layer and deep glow to finish it off, and then just pre-compose that with those two layers. And there you go. And for the deep glow, it's too strong. Just set this to 0.5. Awesome, that just looks a lot better. And there we go. That looks as good as it's going to get. Now we're going to get to second like 10. And we're just going to select all of these, click on T, and keyframe the opacity. So keyframe the ones that already have opacity, and then for these ones, we're just going to keyframe a new opacity. And for these two, keyframe a new opacity. Move over to like 11 seconds or 12 seconds, and then just bring it down to 0. So select all these, and just bring it down to 0. Just like this, okay? Including the background, just to create a, or no, without the background, sorry, just to create a refresh. And at 0.0, we're just going to cut it all, and this is just going to have our animation start again. Okay, there we go. And we just trim the composition over to here. This way we've got pop in, cursor pops in, clicks, opens up. UI pop in, cursor comes in, this whole thing moves, and then we've got fade out, which I think just looks amazing. We're just going to have these fade out a bit earlier. So let's just select all of these. And bring all this just closer together. Fade out earlier, so we have a second, and then we've got all of them. Okay, let's fade them out a bit earlier. Awesome. Okay, and with this being said, guys, that's pretty much it. We're just going to add a few final overlays, just as an attention to detail. So just add an adjustment layer. Make sure to cut it at this point. And then we're just going to add our overlays that we always do. This is a special part. So let's have Gaussian blur, this bad boy, this one here, this one. Gaussian blur, 40. Brightness, contrast, decontrasted, and darken to -40. And then maybe even chromatic aberration. Just trying to think if it's gonna work. Probably. I don't know. Yeah, sure. Why not? Let's give it a try. And then that's about it. Let's also add grain. Grain is good. Grain. Set this to final output. So this is 0.3. And maybe get something cool. Let's make sure that we don't have any repeated edges. That's gonna be a bit annoying. Where's the here edges? Good edges. Trying to see the edges. Yeah, it's obvious. Yeah. So let's just quickly see. Yeah, real quick, I'm just trying to see where we can mirror these edges. You know what? We'll figure that out later. Awesome. Now let's just go ahead and take this ellipse tool and then just add a groove at the end like this. And then you guys already know, invert it. Kind of F40 feather, out. Maybe 200 should be good. We should be good to go. Should be getting some cool animations. Okay, now I just want to make sure that this doesn't try to interfere with anything, so we're going to set this to like 120. Like this, so it's just the edges, and we're also going to turn it down to 75. And ladies and gentlemen, there we go. I'm going to save this project file for you guys to get access to it right here. Okay. Sorry, I don't have my hands are cold. There we go. Awesome. And that's basically it. That's the entire animation, guys. Thanks a lot for following along. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions at all, send them over to me. And this is what we end up with. I'm going to try and preview it while I'm speaking, just so we can kind of get a full animation at the end. Yeah, guys, this is kind of what we end up with after making a very, very cool UI animation. I hope you guys learned a lot of cool effects. I know you guys can apply these and just kind of take your edits to the next level with them. And let's just go ahead and see what this looks like. There we go. Let's just preview it and enjoy it. Oops, sorry. Preview this whole thing and enjoy it. I'll leave it like this. Enjoy it one more time. Oh, look at that cool animation. Yeah, one more time. Nice and seamless. Look at that. Nice. Apparently, I don't know how to speak anymore. Nice. I think that is a great success, guys. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope you have an amazing day, and feel free to submit this in the community or even post it for your own socials. This is some like really, really high quality stuff. And I hope you guys are enjoying these. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you guys next time. Have an amazing day.